Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hi, this is Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast with a new episode coming out for you guys. This week, I'm going to have Gabe Grifoni on the show. He is the CEO and founder at Rufus Labs, which focuses on wearable tech for the warehouse industry, logistics industry. And they have a very, very interesting business model, which I think makes a lot of sense. And as you know, if you're a warehouse manager, operations manager, or work in the operations world, distribution, warehousing, whatever the case may be, you know that flexibility is key. And I think that their business model really provides some flexibility in terms of what you use for your wearable tech and your handheld tech as well. So Gabe's going to talk to us about his company, Rufus Labs, what they do, and then we're going to talk about you know, the products that they have, how the business model works, and then also talk a little bit about the idea of the connected operator. So Gabe, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate you having me on here today. I'm doing really well. Thanks again.
Yeah, definitely happy to have you on. So why don't you give the listeners a little bit of your background. It's a little interesting, I think, definitely for someone to be in this type of space. You have a entertainment background, I guess, or writing background. So why don't you tell us, like, you know, where you kind of started and how you ended up here?
Sure. Yeah, so my background is pretty diverse. When I was in college, I was a computer engineer. I wasn't really into coding. I switched to a business degree with a focus in marketing. I didn't really want to do that either. I ended up moving out to California and got into the entertainment industry. I was working as a production assistant, doing everything from getting coffees to lunches. It was a lot of last mile delivery in an interesting way. But I worked with some really great teams. We worked, really long hours. It was a collaborative effort, and it was, way back in my background. Worked in my grandfather's hardware store.
Okay.
And I used to take in deliveries from UPS, from FedEx, all sorts of our, inventory as it would come in. So really early on, I was in kind of a logistics space, unloading at the loading dock and reloading everything in the shelves and restocking. So my background's pretty much, all over the place with the earliest logistics hints in my great-grandfather's hardware store. That was around for about 100 years in New York. And, I worked there for, I don't know how many summers, from probably when I was too early to be legally working to through high school.
All right, cool.
But the writing world was awesome, being out in California. And it's, we have the business located out here in LA. It's a really great area to have. We look at logistics as an industry that's undergoing a really big transformation. Now, the way we look at things is very different than I think traditional legacy players have looked at the space, or the way it's even looked to you and other people who do this on a daily basis. It's changing a lot right now. Yeah, I mean, you see that, right? You do this every day, and you see that there's a huge shift happening in this need to upgrade and transform to kind of survive, because now everything in logistics is going to another level.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everything is like just 10 times increasing like what is expected from the end customer, and how do you get there is like there's this sudden the past couple of years, I think, to like okay, this industry has to just like catch up fast.
Yeah, and you're right. That's exactly it's the consumer expectation, and the behemoth in the room is Amazon, right? I mean,
Of course,
they're a logistics company. They just made the announcement officially that they're really doing logistics in the last year, and when they entered the market, they're already the largest global logistics company out there by just entering the market because of the amount of packages. They ship more of their own packages than anyone else.
Yeah.
And FedEx and DHL have said they're not shipping Amazon packages anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, it's
Amazon's kind of built this system. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say the sheer volume is just mind-boggling at times.
Yeah, it's the volume and the way they do it, right? They've made a system where you are expecting something same day, next day, sometimes within 2 hours. So everyone else now in the space, has now had another urgency to kind of compete and be able to do the same kind of things. And those tools are out there. That's what we focus on is how do we make those humans more efficient? How do we keep them safer on the job? And there's a huge pull right now. So it's, I think the way we look at things and my background, having, worked in entertainment and built, teams from all sorts of different areas, we look at things from a very different perspective, and we have great talent pools to pull from UCLA, USC, Caltech. We have a lot of good, our technology is very different than what's existed in the workplace before in the warehousing space. So, it's a good space to be in to build that team here.
Definitely. So you had a little bit of a logistics background, sounds like, with your grandfather there at the hardware store, and then you got into the entertainment world. So what actually like sparked the idea for Rufus, and how did that come about?
Yeah, and I should also mention, my parents also worked in manufacturing. So at an early age, I was an only child. I was in I don't know how many factories, being dragged around by my parents while they were doing work, and I was traveling with them all over the place, those factories. So I feel at home in a lot of those warehouses and manufacturing facilities. It's like grew up in a loading dock or a manufacturing facility.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a certain feel and even the smell of the boxes. There's a certain air you kind of get when you're in those facilities, and it just feels very comfortable to me. I like spending time there. So, but that's a longer story. But so how did I get here? How did we end up here?
Yeah.
I was out here working in the entertainment industry. Been pretty successful as a writer. I had a writing partner who I'm still really close with, and she and I, we wrote. We sold a feature film to Sony. We sold some stuff to Comedy Central. It didn't get made, so you can't see it, but it was really funny.
Okay.
It was pretty successful in that area. And I had always had a background in tech and hardware. And for me, I was at CES, which is a huge consumer electronics show in January in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And it was very early on in wearables. There was no Apple Watch. It was the Pebble Watch, I think, was the only thing around. I don't know if you remember Pebble.
I think vaguely.
Yeah, it was kind of like an e-ink screen, small consumer watch. And they were like the first, smartwatch, essentially. Huge, campaign that kind of got a lot of attention. And they disappeared after kind of Apple and Samsung and all the big players came in the game. But it was very early on in wearables. And I was like, I think there's a better way to do wearables, and it meant different kinds of form factors so that it could take on all the tasks that our smartphones used to do, and kind of shift everything to there. Because that was the impetus originally. So we, built the company around this idea of a wearable that was wider and bigger screen and kind of a replacement for what was in our pockets eventually as a consumer. But what we didn't, it was. It was an experiment in an area that we got a lot of attention and some interest in.
Yeah.
And what we really saw was, major Fortune 100 and 500 companies, coming to us and saying, hey, this is really interesting. We've got some different use cases for a wearable that is built more for purpose, essentially, than just kind of an accessory. I would say that's the big difference. One of them, Walmart, major retailer, right? they were interested in what we were building for different types of ways to kind of move their warehouse workers and give them tools that would free up their hands. We had a conversation at CES the following year after we had kind of, originally started the project from sketches, and we met there. There was an immediate interest, and we spent some time back and forth with them. We have a non-disclosure, so I can't talk about a bunch of stuff. But we got a lot of good learning points from them, and really started to understand from them, and lots of other customers, started coming in saying, hey, we have similar uses. So there was definitely a pull, and we said, this is really an area where we can make a big difference. We have tools that actually can solve problems, that can make not only the workers' lives easier, but improve that labor cost and the ROI to these companies. So we really saw an opportunity to make something that had a purpose and that was needed. And, we shifted and from the ground up, scrapped our original hardware because the feedback was, we need a bigger screen, we need more battery, we need it to be more rugged, from very big customers. And we built from the ground up in 8 months, all new kind of, we tell our designers, we want you to build the stuff that Batman or Wonder Woman would wear to work. We want to empower the workers with superhuman tools.
All right, cool.
So,
I like that.
Yeah, that's what we look at doing. And, workers, want to be empowered doing their job, and they want to hit, certain metrics, and, they don't want to have repeat strain and injury by carrying around 4-pound handheld, Zebra devices or something. So there's lots of things we can do. And this industry has been really unsexy and kind of stale for a while. I guess maybe that's how you put it. I
couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And we talked, earlier about, how the computer industry and the home PC market was all tan boxes until, Apple came in with color iMacs and a whole different way of doing things. And it made it exciting and more fun, and got people using and producing more, and really reshaped that industry. And I think we're at a tan box area in logistics, and it needs a shakeup. It needs new stuff that makes workers 60% better at their jobs, and all sorts of other stuff that we do here, at least that we focus on at Rufus. So it's really, really an awesome time in logistics. If you're into it like we are, this is super exciting what's happening.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even, the growth of everything, like we were talking about Amazon before, but of course, the example always goes to Amazon. But, the growth in this space is just exploding, and it's not going to go anywhere because we're just moving more and more towards, online fulfillment and things of that nature. So it's just going to keep exploding, and it's just going to create more jobs in this space. And like you said, you want to keep those workers engaged and, excited as much as they can be excited about work. And it sounds like you guys are working towards that and kind of helping the employee be more empowered, which is a great thing, I think. I love that you said that you want them to be like the superhero, right, at their job. So you have a great point there. So, why don't you talk a little bit about, what the offerings that Rufus has, because you guys have your own hardware, right, and then you also have a software platform too, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We don't look at it as selling hardware or selling software or selling our services.
Mm-hmm.
We focus on productivity. What can we equip you and your team with to make them the most productive? Today, the tools that we offer are X, Y, and Z, right? But in 3 years, there may be other tools that, from different types of wearables to other kind of sensors that may help us with some interesting location and routing of operators. All of those things, our platform is very fluid. It kind of grows with you and grows with technology. So you'll always have the latest technology. We operate on a subscription model. So I think a lot of customers like, you're not alone. We get a lot of feedback from customers in the space, inventory managers who do this and supply chain. You're used to spending $3,000 to $5,000 to buy a piece of hardware that you're hoping to keep for 5 to 7 years. And, then you're going to put warranties on top of that too. It's expensive to be able to to be able to keep up with the times and have new hardware. And technology is changing so quickly. 5 to 7 years is a long time to keep tech. I mean, in, a decade ago, the iPhone had just come out, a year or two before, and look at what's changed in a decade. So in 5 to 7 years, or even 7 to 10 if people use this stuff, it's not the way. Hardware is a commodity now. So the stuff that we provide is very unique and very rugged, but we can consistently make it better. And part of our platform is, in 2 to 3 years, when we've got newer versions of hardware, you're just going to get that, and we'll take back the old hardware, and that'll bring all new sorts of benefits with it as well. So that's how that's how the model works. It's an operational expense instead of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 up front for hardware. You're spending under $100 on a worker, and you're getting not just hardware to outfit them, but we also provide. I guess I can break it down to 3 areas. Would that make the most sense to talk about the 3 areas that kind of come with our offering?
Yeah. Let me just touch on the hardware part though, real quick, because in the beginning of the show I was talking about the flexibility, and that's the flexibility that I'm really excited the most about, I guess personally. But because just like you said, from personal experience, it's expensive to outright buy one piece of hardware, right? So, I know from my experience, it's like, and my experience is kind of in starting up new distribution centers. So you need to kind of equip the workers and stuff, and you have an initial plan of like, I think I need this many handheld devices, and then you end up needing maybe like a couple more, and then it becomes a big thing and a whole approval process because it's all this investment in money. And the flexibility of the subscription model that you guys provide is like, I think it's amazing because it allows you to kind of have more flexibility with the amount of workers that you have and the amount of handheld devices you have to work with. And when you invest in buying one, then if that one breaks, then you have to invest in buying like a backup one too sometimes, and that can be another costly expense. And I think when we had talked previously to this, I think you mentioned that if you have one that breaks, you guys will just swap it out, correct?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, so you're spot on all those things. And, we've spent the last, 3 years in so many warehouses listening to everyone from, we're spending time on the floor with pickers, people in every position kind of understanding what are the pain points and what are the best areas. So the reason we kind of put the platform together the way we did kind of addresses everything you just talked about. The hardware is Android-based, it's rugged, it lasts more than a full shift at, full blast the whole time. Our customers never have a problem in their 8-hour shifts, and they go 8-hour back-to-back shifts. The batteries are swappable. You don't have to reboot a device, which wastes 90 seconds if you take a battery out because it has 2 batteries inside. So it's always on essentially. And it's meant to take a beating. We've got a military customer using it out in proving grounds, and they're probably the most rough on our devices. So it's meant for the workforce. Yeah, it's been really, really great feedback. So they're using it for something a little different, but the ruggedization of the device was really critical to them, obviously. But yeah, like you mentioned, the flexibility. If you're an e-commerce provider, a lot of our customers, at least 50 to 100%, they double their workforce or they increase it by 50% during the holiday or during a peak season, depending on what their seasonality is.
Yeah.
So if you've got 1,000 workers and you have to double it, buying 1,000 pieces of hardware platforms so that you can actually use those workers effectively and make sure their accuracy is 99.99%. You're looking at a really large capex right up front there on 1,000 extra pieces of hardware. Part of our services is flexibility. So if you've got 1,000 workers for 3 months, we'll increase those platforms. You get all of the hardware and services with it and all the software, and I'll touch on that too. And then when you're done, we pull it all back. So in next year, we may have new versions of hardware. So when you flex up, you'll have all new devices for those employees.
Yeah, and then you don't have 1,000 that you bought, and they just sit for like half the year, right?
Yeah, exactly. You've got to find some space for inventory of 1,000 pieces of hardware that don't get used for 9 months.
Yeah, so it makes total sense.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's been, the Rufus Flex, which is kind of part of the services, the flexibility has been a really big, valuable proposition for a lot of our customers because, we understand that you need to be productive, you need the tools for them. But and you mentioned the break as well, we keep redundancies on site. So depending on how many units you have deployed, you'll have X number of units sitting on the shelf. So if one happens to, who knows, get thrown, fall off, and run over by a forklift, an employee can go grab one off a shelf, log back into their user account, and they'll be right back in whatever workflow they were. We're focused on zero downtime.
Yeah.
So that's part of the fact that we control all the software is it's all user based. So everyone has their own accounts. They can log into any device and they begin their workflow in whatever WMS system they're using. And then we have a really cool, dashboard that displays metrics to warehouse managers so they can see every team member to the minute, how are they picking, what's the labor cost per pick, lines per hour. You can see historical views. We built a chat feature in there if you want to be able to reach workers. You don't have to worry about walkies anymore or spending 3-5 minutes going to find them on the floor. It's all awesome. User-based. So, yeah, the software, and that was a big ask from customers, is just communication. Instead of walkies, I have a haptic or vibrate alert on someone's arm.
Yeah. I
can send instructions, the change of order, anything, immediately without having to try to go find them on the floor. So that's built in the MDM, which is a device manager software. So whatever apps you run, if you're running SAP, Manhattan, DePosco, whatever your WMS systems are, we lock down the system and you control it on the cloud with whatever apps you want. So there aren't going to be, Instagram or Facebook, other things on there. Even the browser, we lock down what browser you want to use. It maximizes efficiency, right? And if you want to allow Spotify for workers to have music, go ahead and drop that in the app folder, and it can be deployed on all the devices, all your workers. It's all controlled through our cloud software and our dashboard.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so that's all.
I'm just thinking actually,
how it works.
I'm just thinking about, we had our last episode, we had Amanda Fisher on from the Employee app, which is like an app for communication and pushing out like content to employees. So I was just thinking about the possibility of being able to add that to the wearable for the employee. That would be pretty cool. And the fact that you got Spotify, I think employees probably love that, right?
we did. Well, we did it. That was just from a request. Hey, like if employees wanted to have music on the floor, if they bring their own phones, productivity goes down 20% because that brings along every other app along with it.
Yeah.
But if we could control what apps are running on Android on your device, then we could allow certain things, but then not have the phones on the floor as well. So that was kind of born out of a customer conversation with a large third-party logistics provider that was looking to solve that problem.
Very cool. So why don't you talk a little bit about the software itself and how it kind of works and what's the benefits and how I think one of the big things about Rufus is that at least in looking at the website and talking to you, it's like that you guys really are targeting on increasing. You listen to your customers for one. I mean, that's for sure. I can tell that. But on top of that, you're definitely looking at increasing productivity. So how does the software itself help an operation kind of increase that productivity, and how does it work?
Sure. And so Work Hero, Rufus Work Hero is essentially what our platform is, and it includes the hardware and the software and the services. We talked about what the hardware can do and those services like the Flex and all that. The software is running in the background, and it's, as you're doing your pick job, it's gathering data. So the main points I mentioned the software will do, it gathers a lot of those metrics like the scans per hour, and it's at a worker level. So I know exactly how everyone's performing at any given minute. I can see that historically. That gives a level of visibility in terms of I can see if workers picking similar items, some are taking double the number of steps. They're obviously not walking optimal routes. There may be a way to improve that efficiency. It's a level of visibility that our customers really haven't seen before. There's a limit to what you can get from a WMS system because, you're not warned. You can't gather certain metrics. I know exactly, eventually, and this isn't rolled out yet, but it's in alpha testing in our lab. We'll know micro-location breadcrumb trails, so we'll be able to understand where workers are moving so that we can understand all the routes they're taking, move them in real time to better routes. If there's a reason, maybe it's better to pick item 3 before item 2 and then go to item 2 because there's a forklift in this aisle. We'll know where all the operators are. So the software is really intelligent and it gathers data on the worker. The location part of our software is going to be really relevant, especially with integrating, humans and machines. There's going to be humans doing certain jobs and coordinating and putting, items on a machine that may take it somewhere else. So understanding where the machines are, they know where they are. We don't know where the operators are, but that's where we come in, is understanding that too. So, the software is evolving. Right now, it gathers a lot of metrics and gives the visibility into some pretty critical KPIs for our customers. Some of them will spend, an hour and a half a day calculating the labor cost per pick by taking info from their WMS and from their time card system and building a spreadsheet of all that. That's something we automatically display on our dashboard. So we're saving a lot of time on that management side as well. So the software is really about visibility and improving that efficiency, because if you can see, metrics at a granular level of each worker, you can figure out where to make improvements. And then we just wrap around an existing warehouse management system. What's great about the way we've built everything from the Android software that runs on the Rufus Cuff to the dashboard that runs online is it's meant as edge analytics, we like to call it. It's data on the edge, and you can still run your core just the way you did. So if you're running, DePosco, or you're running whatever warehouse management system you're running, that runs natively on our system, and we do all this work around it in the background and provide, essentially, we enhance that WMS system with all of our tools around it. And,
that's great. So it's not like a full system overhaul. You don't need to go into like this huge system change. Yeah.
Yeah, we can go into, we have a 14-day or 30-day POC, demo, a proof of concept that we do with customers. And, day one, they can be, they can have 8 operators, for an hour each doing their pick job with their system on it. Because usually in the days leading up to it, we make sure the system runs natively on our device, no problem, get it out the door, and they have a demo. It's a pretty streamlined process now, but it makes rollout fairly, much quicker, I think, than what is traditionally expected or what people are used to in the logistics space. Along with the OpEx model, it's another reason why we're able to move into locations a lot faster, because the decision doesn't have to go through as many people. It's part of the operational budget, and the onboarding and the ability to work out of the box is across the board. Most of our customers are just able to get going.
Okay, cool. So then the software too that's cloud-based. So whenever you guys do an update, like you mentioned that, I guess that little teaser you gave us about microlocation, something like, so that's something that you would just push out to whatever companies you work with, and then that's included in the subscription, or does that require some kind of upgrade?
No, so the way everything works right now is there's a subscription fee. You get all of the equipment you need for your workers. If you have, 3 shifts, and with 300 workers and 100 each shift, you'll get 100 platforms of hardware, 300 user accounts, all the software. And then as we roll out new features, those just roll out. And then as we update, the dashboard with new abilities, I mentioned chat, that's already live. So between dashboard, or Rufus Cuff to Rufus Cuff on the floor, all of that is live. There's safety alerts and incident reporting is almost live. So all those will just roll out to customers as part of the platform. We just, people get grandfathered in, you're in the platform, and you'll just, have new hardware and software all the time, new features. Yeah. So, microlocation would require us to give you some special beacons we built, and we'd put, anywhere from 50 to 100 of them around on warehouse shelves, but that'll be included, and we'll just make sure you have them.
Okay, cool. I like that safety alert thing you mentioned. So that, like, if there's any kind of incident, they can automatically just call it out on the device. Is that the idea there?
Yeah, well, we've got a few things there. So 2 conversations. One was with we spent a lot of time with Caterpillar, and we were out in their facilities in Texas. There's a group out there that has like 28 plants. They do a lot of repair and manufacturing. So there's a bit of a logistics use case in the sense that there's parts moving around, but obviously not the same volume and movement of e-commerce and retailing and grossing.
Yeah.
I mean, those are thousands of SKUs every second.
Yeah.
But I walked by one of their boards, and you've seen this, I'm sure. It was, a push pin with a injury. This happened 3 weeks ago, and here's how to avoid it. You've seen that on a safety bulletin board before.
Mm-hmm.
And, I asked, how do you share this information? And they were like, we put it in a PDF and a file share and hope people look at it. So that was where incident reports was born out of, because we talked about incident reporting and being able to, safety and efficiency to us are productivity. So we focus on both of those. How do we make people more efficient, and how do we keep them safe? Because that's the best productivity you're going to get, right? A safe worker and an efficient worker.
Definitely.
So on the safety side, if we can, from a basic level, even say, how do we share this information in an Instagram style feed, a way that workers and millennials and everyone are used to consuming already. If we can share that info in a way, because we control everything on these devices and they're already using it for all their work, then that's a great way to spread safety information and potentially mitigate that risk for other workers as well. So incident reporting and sharing across the organization or across warehouses is built into the system. And like you mentioned, safety alerts, being able to, let's say there was an emergency on premise or fire, whatever it was, that could be either a remote, alert from one worker to everyone on the team if there was a fire, or, offsite a manager could, do that. So those are built in, and we can reach every worker that's on the floor and connected live at the same time. We know every worker that's connected because, again, we've got that whole system in there.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. That's awesome. So I mean, this is all kind of, I guess, going towards the concept of a connected operator. So why don't you talk a little bit about, the idea of the connected operator, and then talk a little bit about how that's going to, or how you think it's going to evolve over the next couple of years and into the future, especially with, robotics becoming a larger part of the space as well. And how will the connected operator kind of work in collaboration with those robots?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and a big focus of ours here. We look at the connected operator as the most critical, next 10 to, I'd say probably to 30 years is really going to be humans and these connected operators. How do we bring humans into the Internet of Things, into IIoT? The industrial Internet of Things, because now we've hit a cap, right? We can only do so much. If we connect them now to not just back-end systems with SKUs and make them, able to access data faster by giving them wearable technology that's directly connected to everything, we also need to connect them to automation. You mentioned, we have customers that are using Fetch or Locust, robotics. And there's going to be a need to understand how those humans and robots are going to work together over the next 20 and 30 years, because the human role is going to evolve, and the robots are going to take on some more of the, the shift in weight and burden. But humans will do different things. But they both need to know where they are, and they both need to be connected. So that's what we do. Is, to us, we look at all of the future of not just warehousing, but manufacturing and lots of different industries. Is going to be this coordinated dance between humans and machines, and half the equation that's really important is the humans, and that's where we focus. The connected operator is half that really important equation. I think that over the next 5 to 10 years, what we're doing right now, we're seeing a huge acceleration in it. It's just connecting humans to a system, to the back end systems with wearables, especially in our case. We're seeing a big pull towards it, and that's why we built everything the way we did for purpose. But that's really the next 5 to 10 years, is how do we connect them to the system and help them do their jobs faster. And then I think starting in 10 years or so and 20, as robots become more, proliferate the floor a little bit more and become more of a commodity where they're also running as a platform as a service, and you can afford them instead of spending $50,000 a machine, it's a few thousand a month or whatever it is. That's, I think, going to be really interesting for us to see too in the next couple decades. So the connected operator is definitely going to have a really interesting role, and that's really why we focus so much on the software and the data we gather and understanding the human, because the more we understand them, the better we can help move them around, keep them safer on the job, and connect them to these robots they'll be working with.
Definitely. I think that's an awesome perspective. I mean, there's I think there's like two schools of thought here, where there's like the school of thought of there will be essentially a dark warehouse, right, where there's no humans, but there's the other school of thought where humans, like you were talking about, will be connected and they'll just work side by side with the robots, which I think is more of the case myself personally as well. And I think, like you said, it's going to make this opportunity, I guess, for the workers and the employees, humans, for their tasks to be elevated a little more, because the robots are going to kind of eliminate those mundane tasks, so to speak, and just increase efficiency. So it's really cool what you guys are doing to help bridge that connected gap between the human operator and the robotic operator as well. So it's really exciting stuff. So what does the future of Rufus look like? You mentioned some software updates that you guys are going to be doing, which sound really great. But are you guys going to expand from wearables, or are you going to target still in wearables and just keep improving that technology over time?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why we also operate as a platform is because the flexibility to make the platform incorporate the most productive elements of tools, from hardware to software, is why we operate as a platform. That flexibility is great, so we can continue to evolve. Right now, so our first offering, actually, we have our Rufus Cuff, which is our wearable kind of terminal, and then we have a ring scanner that connects to it, and that's been our offering. We recently added a glove scanning element, which one of our customers we're going into rollout with. I can't mention their name right now, but they're a Fortune 150 biomedical company. They were able to increase pick speed from about 12 or 13 seconds to 5 to 6 seconons per pick. Oh, wow. So they had a huge improvement, and that was using
that is huge.
Our ring. Yeah, I mean 60%. They were what they used to do in over 2,000 labor hours across this one facility. They can now do in about 700 or 800 labor hours. And get the same amount of packages moved out the door, which is phenomenal. And then we saw an even greater, like a fractional increase, that 5 to 6 seconds went to 4.5 or 5 when they were using our glove scanner, just because they're able to reach into narrower areas and into bins that the ring was a little bit tougher to kind of maneuver around. So we even saw an improvement with that. So our goal, and that's an example of, why we like being, flexible and growing, because that offering is now part of our platform, and it boosts efficiency even more than what we were doing before. So now that 55 to 60% is 60 to 65% boost in efficiency, and our software is going to be the same, right? We provide visibility. They're able to see what their pick speeds are by looking at our software and see those boosts, even calculating their own metrics, because they do their own timing and stuff. But we'll have more features on the software side, similar to how we add to the hardware side, that will also provide more improvements. Like I mentioned, micro-location. If we can in real time route humans, if you're new to a warehouse, I mean, attrition in these places is really high, and seasonal hires, takes a couple weeks to even know where things are, right? Yeah. By the time they learn it, in 2.5 months, they're out of there already. Yeah. So if we can know where they are, and literally with an arrow point them in the right directions to begin their pick routes, and get them to the machines when they're going to the machines, the right ones, we can reduce the number of steps, and therefore the labor cost per item goes down, because in e-commerce and retail, the margins on that is so low. You're going to make it up in the efficiency and the shipping. and the pick. So that's, the software will continue to evolve and provide new benefits too. So for us, it's all about every fractional efficiency we can find, which is from hardware to software, moving people in the right direction and giving them tools that shave off, even a half a second times however many thousands of workers adds up to a lot. So for us, the platform is always evolving and our customers benefit from it. Our belief in the life cycle of hardware is just like you as a consumer. Every 2 to 3 years, you kind of need something new because it's not so much about processing power anymore. It's more just that, versions of Android aren't supported by certain things. So if you've got applications that can do great things, but your hardware is 5 to 7 years old, it's not going to support it. I mean, try loading, an app on a 5 or 7 year old iPhone that's supposed to do anything, quick. I have an iPad that's 3 years old at home, and you can see the speed at which, the screens slow down and open. So hardware is just a different play these days, and we don't want our customers to be stuck with old stuff too. So growing and evolving the hardware all the time is really important to us too. So, that's the big focus. And like you said, we listen to customers. We'll be in warehouses forever and listening and adding, pieces to the platform that our customers want.
Awesome. So, Gabe, first off, I want to say, thank you for helping to make warehouses sexy again. And second off, where can people find out more about Rufus? Because I know if I'm listening, I'm, working in a warehouse or something, and I'm involved in picking. I'm very, very interested in your product right now. So, where can people find out more about Rufus?
Yeah, and thanks again for having me today. I really appreciate it and love the conversation. It's always fun to talk with someone who lives and breathes warehouses like we do, because it's really easy to communicate. As far as our solutions, you can go to getrufus.com, and we've got a whole bunch of information on our platform there. You can request spec sheets and demos, and we're pretty efficient now as going to a demo process. And we see about a 30 to 60% improvement in pick speeds out of the gates with our technology. So it's kind of a game changer right away, and you'll know that right away from a demo. So we're more than happy to talk to anyone who's interested.
Okay, great. So, Gabe, thank you so much for being on the New Warehouse podcast, and we'll post all that information on thenewwarehouse.com.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.